Hello and welcome to the Weekly Shonen Jump Review. Each week I read Weekly Shonen Jump and give my review of the chapters. As a reminder of my format, I'll provide a brief summary of the series that I read, followed by some quick thoughts about each chapter, and then at the end of the video I'll rank all the chapters as if I am turning in the surveys. I don't cover all the series in this review, as I've already dropped some of the series, but for those that I do, there will be some spoilers. Well, a lot of spoilers, so you have been warned. Check the table of contents for the series that you don't want to have spoiled. Imu's battle with Loki continues, and Imu spends a lot of time dropping hints at lore, including the fact that Ragnir has been living for a very long time, maybe as long of a time as he has. We also see more of his powers before we switch over to Sanji. He's recovering from the blast that Imu gave him, but he's off to try and rescue the kid giants since the Holy Knights have gone back into action. Then we see Chopper providing aid to everybody, including Gerd, who looks like she may keep her fingers after all. Then Zoro lets us know that the black flames were turned into things like steel bullets and other things, which were what caused the damage. The Holy Knights are still on the move, and they let slip to us that Imu's body can't handle being out in the outside world, as I had actually thought once he first appeared. But they also summon a huge nightmare beast, which is Zaza, a big rain god that brings rain to a particular beat. Just another densely packed lore chapter with very interesting implications. I'm always impressed with how Oda is able to pack so much into these chapters, but also make them very entertaining to read. I'm very curious at how a lot of this conflict is going to go, and whether we are about to see something very momentous occur in the series. The attack on the Matinel Witches Association has begun, and Amadoro's gang are causing chaos, but luckily, at least, one way of looking at it is being luckily. The Magic Keepers are currently on site to try to stop the attack. Amadoro arrives precisely where our gang are, and she delivers a message that she is here to kill Ichi the Witch on behalf of her friend, the Evil Witch. This activates Ichi's death for death instinct, and he jumps in only to be stopped at the last moment by Minakata to protect him from himself. Minakata then gives another lesson, while at the same time igniting Destroyerz' competitive spirit as a mentor in a very funny way. Another great chapter this week. It looks like we are going to have a bit of a battle royale, but honestly, the bad witches look like they are going to be outnumbered unless the evil witch comes in to join the fray. The running gag of Destroyerz being jealous and competitive with Minakata is really funny, so I'd be happy if they keep that up for a while. This whole thing seems to be going a little quickly, though. Like, just a little bit. Feels, I don't want to say rushed, but it feels like we're moving at a very breakneck pace. So I wouldn't mind them even slowing down a little bit. Death on the high seas. At least the god of death on the high seas. We start the chapter with news that our yacht is going to be sailing into stormy waters, which will, I'm sure, have a very interesting implication for the story. Likely something like the audience just being so engrossed with the story that Akane is telling that they don't even know that they're in a storm, or perhaps something will be very fortuitously timed, like a lightning strike or something, just to, emphasize a point of the story. Either way, Akane is continuing her story and is bringing in the extreme eeriness of her god of death, creating a truly captivating performance that at times is reminiscent of how Shigeru himself performed the story. This style seems to be key to understanding Shigeru's art, and it is a performance that causes Isho to be intensely interested in what Akane will do, and that is how the chapter ends. Truly, this chapter was gripping, even as a reader. It felt like I was barely even breathing while reading through the story, so I can't even imagine how it would be to hear. We are seeing the fruits of Akane's labor, and she is really swinging for the fences in a way that I just can't help but demand. Yes, not ask, demand for more. So the talks are, well, let's say they are not going well. Yes, indeed, the fight between the Soga clan and the Danten Seki sorcerers comes to a close, even with the Soga clan's fighters pulling out all the stops of their powers and showing off how strong they are. It isn't enough to overcome our new foe's abilities. No, instead, they each get turned into Swiss cheese. Specifically, 3 bubbles worth of Swiss cheese. That is beside our Soga, as we know. He becomes the only survivor of this incident due to the bad guy taking an interest in his sorcery. Sorcery, which we finally learn how it works, and it is not a simple teleportation spell, but instead is a method for Soga to manipulate the attributes of a person. One of those things being their location, which allows him to teleport himself or anything that he is touching somewhere else. The chapter ends with Soga having his throat cut, but being kept alive by the Danten Seki warrior's abilities. I really enjoyed this chapter. The depiction of the fighting and of the powers of all the fighters has really been breathtaking. I think that the art in particular has reached an insane, hard to believe that it is possible level of skill and detail for a weekly series. And you add on top of that the fact that this story has become really interesting and that the fighting does not just break down into, oh, look at this cool thing, but instead incorporates strategy and skills. Yes, this is just, it's incredibly good peak of a chapter, which shows off just how strong the new foe is. Great stuff. The final match is about to arrive. Yes, Taiki is about to go toe-to-toe with Yusa in the regional qualifier. But in a way, it does not have a huge amount of stakes because Taiki has already made it to the Nationals to be qualified for the Nationals because he's in the final, and thus will go up against the best of the best in Japan later. We also get to see a cute moment of Chinatsu cheering on Taiki through the netting of his racket, just like they were back in the gym, back where they were practicing all that time before. Then the match begins and the two boys are out on the court against each other. I thought that there were some cute moments and funny moments in this chapter, but it's mostly setting up the match to come. Also, I thought that the love all at the end, whenever they announce that the match is starting and they say love all, there was just like a kind of fun little nod. Let's see some high-level badminton next week. Yodaka reveals his idea to the rest of the squad, and his idea is to separate Yoichi from his moldy sludge to hopefully talk some sense into him. To do this, Yodaka shows off that he is able to copy Kasagi's technique after having only seen it a few times, which proves just how much of a badass he is. The first hit doesn't work, but Kasagi is able to update Yodaka's plan to make him form a huge love lance using the teamwork of the whole of Squad 7. Yodaka is also so powerful, he needs all the rest of the squad to work together to hold Kasagi in place. Then, their Mega Lance slams into Yoichi and he starts to daydream about what life could be like if he wasn't such a loner moldy boy, and Yodaka breaks his iron cage. In this case, literally, but also figuratively. I love this chapter not just for the action, but for the camaraderie within the group. I also think that the fighting and the use of powers has been interesting as well. Another good entry from Shinobi Undercover this week. Oh boy, this chapter was a doozy. Wolf is on a full rampage due to his powered-up abilities and has completely got the upper hand on the warlock that he's fighting. But this warlock decides to play dirty and send the combined powers of his ghosts at Nemu, who isn't able to move. Wolf, as he's running to her, realizes that his only option is to put himself between her and the ghost and gets a full blast through the chest, seemingly causing a mortal wound to Wolf. But what does that mean for Keigo? As they share the same body, does he also get the same impact too? Either way, there was a lot of feels in this chapter, and I love the way that they depicted Wolf going on a hunt in the middle of his rampage. That was really cool. Also, seeing him go through his life just as he is about to sacrifice it, so many feels. Another great Witch Watch chapter this week. Tenkyu joins the fight on the side of the brothers as they are friends with Shin. And Tenkyu seems to match up with the male twin. At least he gets him to really get into the fight as they are, fighting with each other and trading blows. The fighting is mostly back and forth until the male twin starts to get the hang of it and gets the upper hand. He seems like he may pull out the win, but the elder stepbrother gets an idea. First, he charges in front, which is just enough cover to let Tenkyu grab one of the rocket shoes that his younger brother was wearing and use that as an improvised arrow. And they are able to land a direct hit at the end of the chapter. I liked the action in this one, and I think adding Tenkyu to the mix made it even better. I was feeling a little about the fight before this, so I guess the fight is over. That was kind of unclear at the end of the chapter, but we'll see. This week, the focus is on Chiwako, Haiji's sidekick, and it's about her getting a day off. And honestly, guys, it is a completely deserved day off. She has put in a lot of hard work keeping our underdoctor in line, so she really lets loose on her day off. Yep, she goes to the mall, gets all sorts of shopping done, sees a movie, does karaoke, just generally all sorts of fun things. But she also gets to squeeze in helping a lost child find their parent and stop a terrorist from bombing the mall, all while still allowing herself to catch the movie that she wanted to see in theaters. I mean, just what an awesome day. Yeah, I love this chapter. It had fantastic vibes, but I also just felt so good for, seeing our everybody's favorite assistant getting to unwind like that after hard months of work. We all need breaks like that. Mizuo and Mime are finally able to see their favorite hosts in action in person, and honestly, they look like they were just having a fantastic time. It looked like it would have been a fun show to go to, and yeah, I was skeptical that they would have been able to put on something that was super fun, but it looked like it was super fun. But anyway, they have a great time, and Mizuo even got her response read live on stage. Mime didn't. Oh well, but Mizuo can enjoy getting a sticker. Then our duo meet up with some other listeners, one of whom got their response read as well on stage, but he is not nearly as interested in the show as everybody else that we've met so far. He tries to hand over his stickers and is doing his best to make Mime feel bad, but Mime's love for the show is way too strong for that. And he puts this guy in his place, which Mizuo said made him look cool. But then we get to hear of a new competition on the horizon, the Rookie Round, or a competition for folks with less than 5 points in the show. Mime qualifies and vows that he is going to win it himself. Another adorable fest of a chapter this week. I love that Mime stood up for himself and showed what a true fan he actually is of his favorite show. Though this rookie round kind of feels a little weird since he's been listening for so long. Kind of feels like Akane whenever she entered the Karaku Cup. Oh, it's a sex thing. I knew it. Oh, it's a sex thing. Why did it have to be a sex thing? Anyway, this week in Kinato's Magic, we get a bunch of world lore, which was interesting, to be sure, but then we also see Kinato and Jean off to the land of the Lady Ninjas. Turns out, in the past, Jean caused a bunch of mischief as a child, and he didn't even realize that he wouldn't have been welcomed back. Jean and Kinato get caught and put on trial because they're men, and men are bad. Yep, you heard that right, folks. We added Amazon Lily to this series as well. But Kinato shows how much of a healer boy he is and challenges one of the Amazon ladies to allow him to heal her. He does, and hey, he aligned her pelvis. Yep, nothing wrong about that here. No, sorry, Bob. Just a lady feeling very, very happy that her pelvis has been adjusted thanks to Kinato. Oh, also, there was a sort of character lineup of, them all contributing early on in the chapter, everybody jumping in and saying something at the beginning, so, that's nice, I guess. Bringing back characters is important. And in this chapter, we are keeping to the average of adding 2 new seemingly major characters to the chapter this week. There was some funny moments, but I mean, like, the sex thing, come on. At least I hope that this will bring Kinato back down to being a support person. It would be much better story that way. It's time for the Kanai home date. And they do in fact study. Yep, that is right. Keep your mind out of the gutter over there. But this is the only way that Kanai knows how to throw fastballs at Iamori. And don't get me wrong, she's got parental permission for this this little home date, so that's good. But things are looking a little tough for Kanai because Iamori still has Himari on the mind, but just as he is about to go, Kanai leaves him a letter for him to read just before the trip that is coming up. So a love letter? Quite bold of you, Kanai. But again, that is how you would do. Just a fine one this week. Kiyoshi and Bobo's fight is hitting a climax, and this time Bobo is in his final form and is throwing everything that he has at Kiyoshi, and Kiyoshi, for his part, needs to pull out all the stops on his end to try and win as well. However, it doesn't work, and all hope looks like it might be lost when suddenly Kiyoshi starts filling up with power. What could have happened? Yep, it's a demon spirit bomb. All the low-level demons are just pouring their power into Kiyoshi, and it looks like he'll be able to blast away Bobo and win the day. A little on the nose to DBZ, but, you know, I thought it was a good enough chapter this week. Okay, that's it. I have no idea what's going on in this series anymore. Yeah, so Shirokiba and the anthropomorphized version of a sheep decide to inject a huge number of viruses into themselves to try to force a power-up, and hey, it works! Now they have a big old character redesign, and he doesn't even look like a human anymore. Then they go to beat up the spiky dude, and Shirokiba finally remembers he was a wrestler at one point and uses some token wrestling moves because, that's what the show was about, but I guess we forgot. Then the sheep headbutts the guy to death. Then they ride off in their new forms and run into another alien. So, yeah. What the heck is going on? Where is my silly wrestling show, and why did you make him into some stupid generic protagonist? Ugh, yeah, this series is going in the wrong direction. Big time. Roku is out with Kabenegi this week as he needed to pick up some items to make for dinner later. We find out that Kabenegi is a war curse, which throws Roku off guard as he does not seem to show off that impression with his tendency to do housework at home. But it seems that this guy contains multitudes because suddenly there is a runaway car incident that Kabenegi is able to jump into and solve by pulling guns from the cops that are nearby, blowing up the car with said guns, and all of the clothes of the driver, and then grabbing some nearby punks that were bad-mouthing him and using them as human cushions to break the fall. Then he saves a baby that was knocked out by the collateral damage. This chapter was chaos, but I loved it. It was super funny. And this series is really just like a little treat compared to the other things that are around it. Really fun. The boys are back and have learned absolutely nothing from their infiltration of the practice of the team that they're going to play, but the scrimmage still goes on as scheduled, and it turns out that this basketball powerhouse is not going to be playing their starters for the scrimmage because they are looking down on our protagonists. How rude. But anyway, the game starts and the other team misses their first shot, but our main characters go down the floor and do a surprise alley-oop. I mean, kind of hard to do that, but hey, that's what happened. It's kind of funny how much the dude on the other team is internally freaking out about this one point. Like basketball is literally back and forth with dozens upon dozens of plays exactly like this. Like, I I know you gotta emote for the manga, but it was just like, it's like, dude, is this why you're not a starter? Because you freak out every time the other team scores a point? Like, both teams are gonna score points. You don't just shut out people in basketball unless they're really bad. And even if they're really bad, they normally score at least once. Anyway, also, standing around to pose like our main characters were doing after one basket is not good defense. Just, get into formation, guys. Okay, so it seems like the Demon King's world is attempting to overtake this one, and it is causing vines to appear everywhere. But there is also a very intimidating hero out in the schoolyard who is just wasting teachers and students left and right because he sees them as enemies in his hero battle with the Demon King, which is a fun juxtaposition. But it takes a bit too long for my liking to get to the Demon King commode bit to smash into his head with a baseball bat. So the school is saved, but not this dude's bowels. Like, the guy needs a prescription medication or something. See a doctor. Like, he is in distress. And that is it for the chapters this week. Rankings are coming up above my head now. So at the top, we have, One Piece and Akane-Banashi just throwing out some really, really great chapters this week. And it needed a just masterpiece of a chapter by Kagurabachi to knock them out of what would have been a top spot for either of them, just for how good their series have been so far. The Roku's House of Oddities was really fun this week. I've been enjoying that series as it's coming in and early on. I think that it does its humor very well, which can be hard. I mean, humor is hard, and I think that what it's been doing so far, I have definitely enjoyed it. And Witch Watch really pulled out a good chapter this week. I was very impressed with the action, how it was depicted, and also just the character building in it. I thought it was very good. And this week was really disappointing at the bottom of my rankings for the magazine. Alien Headbutt looks to be on a one-way ticket trip to Axeville, and Kinato's magic just cannot find its way, which is a shame because I think that it had and has potential, and I think that Kinato's magic can get back on the horse and become a series that I'd be interested in. Like it hasn't gone too far down one way where it can't like hey, let's just go back to him being a support character. That was better anyway. That's the good idea. Don't try to make this like Shonen Soup. And you're making it like Shonen Soup where it's like, oh, he's Deku, but like, oh, look, here's this thing from Fairy Tail, or like, oh, here's this thing from One Piece, or oh, here's this thing from Naruto, or whatever. Like, you don't need to do that. You had an interesting idea. Just keep moving in that direction. Alien Headbutts, it's I feel bad, but I think it's done. Like it's only it's barely in the teens of chapters, but it feels like it's on its way out. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you all for watching this video. Hope to see you again on the next one.